Did you get a scary CP2000 letter from the IRS saying you owe more in taxes than you thought you did? Don't panic yet. There are things that can be done about it. Today, I'll show you exactly what the CP2000 notice means, why the IRS sent it, and how to respond without making things worse. By the way, I'm Brad Paladini, a tax attorney with over 13 years of experience helping clients respond to IRS notices like this one and avoid unnecessary taxes and penalties. So what is exactly a CP2000 notice? It's not a bill, but it's still serious. The CP2000 is a proposed change to your tax return. It usually means that the IRS found a mismatch between what you reported on the tax return and what third parties like employers, banks, or brokers reported to the IRS. So what are some common triggers? It could be something as simple as a W-2 being left off your tax return. Maybe you had multiple jobs and you reported 2 of the W-2s, but you forgot to report the third. Well, the IRS gets a copy of all the W-2s, and if they notice one is missing, it could trigger a CP2000. Stock sales are another common issue. If you invest and buy and sell stocks, you will receive a 1099-B at the end of the year, showing how much you sold stocks for. If it's not reported on the tax return, the IRS will propose an adjustment for you. There are 2 really common scenarios we see for CP2000 notices. One is home sale, and the other is gambling activity. So let's start with home or real estate sale. When you sell a piece of real estate, you will get a 1099-S showing how much you sold the property for. Oftentimes, people don't realize that this needs to be reported on the tax return, even if they didn't actually make any money on the transaction. And so if you don't report the home sale, the IRS will automatically adjust your return, showing whatever you sold the property for. So if you sold it for $500,000, the IRS will say you made an extra $500,000, regardless of the fact that you purchased it for $700,000 and actually lost money on the transaction. The other common scenario we see is gambling. So if you're gambling online or you're going to a casino, those institutions will issue W-2Gs showing what your winnings were, or at least some of your winnings for the year. Not many people make money gambling, right? Throughout the year, it's probably either a very small gain or a loss or maybe a big loss. And people don't think a lot about it because they really didn't make any money. They just kind of do it for the enjoyment. But when it gets reported to the IRS is only seeing what you won and not necessarily what you lost. And so they will propose an automatic adjustment reporting all of your winnings without giving you any credit for any losses that you had. What happens if you ignore it? Well, the IRS will eventually finalize this bill. So if you don't respond to the CP2000, generally the IRS will send a notice of deficiency trying to finalize the amount due. And if you still ignore that letter, the bill will become final and your case will go to collections. Once the case goes to collections, the IRS doesn't so much care whether you should or should not owe this additional money. That unit's job is just to collect the past due debt. So you want to make sure you take action on the CP2000 and not wait until you're in collections before you try and resolve this issue. So how do you respond once you get a CP2000? You want to review the notice carefully. It's going to show you exactly what the IRS believes the correct income should be and how it's calculating its proposed changes. You're going to want to compare that to your tax return and to your own records to see if there was, in fact, some sort of mistake. So if you did make a mistake and you agree with the IRS's determination, you have the option of just signing that CP2000 and wrapping this in a bow. If you disagree, you're going to have to provide documentation and a written explanation. So this could be something like proving basis in a real estate transaction. So the IRS says that you made $500,000 selling a piece of property. They don't understand that you bought the property for $700,000. And so you actually didn't have a taxable gain on the transaction. If it's something like a gambling issue, you're going to want to get your win-loss statement from the casino to show that you actually lost money or maybe didn't quite win as much as the IRS suspects you won. So you got to gather all of that information and provide a written response laying out your arguments clearly and succinctly. You're going to want to send that to the IRS via certified mail. So that way you have proof that you actually did respond. The IRS also does use a secure portal, so it is possible to upload documents that way. If you do that, take a screenshot of the submission confirmation. I've had issues where the IRS alleged that we never responded to a CP2000 or to another notice. And fortunately, we had the screenshot showing that we did in fact respond. Don't know what happens on the IRS's end, but sometimes they lose things. The IRS will review your response to the CP2000, and they will send you a letter basically saying whether they agree, disagree, or maybe somewhere in the middle. So it's possible that they will allow for some of your arguments, but not all of them. And they may issue a revised proposed adjustment, hopefully lowering the amount owed that they initially proposed. If you still disagree with the IRS, you could send in an additional response, or it's possible to wait for the IRS to issue a notice of deficiency and then petition the tax court to make your arguments there. I want to cover quickly the difference between a CP2000 and a traditional audit. A CP2000 isn't a full audit. It can lead to one, but a CP2000 is basically an underreporter notice. Again, the IRS computer is just comparing what was on your return and what was reported directly to the IRS from third parties and issuing a notice based on that. On the other side, an audit would ask for detailed backup documentation to prove one or more line items on your tax return. If you got a CP2000 notice, here's the bottom line. Don't ignore it. Verify the info, respond quickly, and if you're not sure what to do, get some help. So if you need help reviewing or responding to a CP2000 notice, my firm offers consultations. You can click the link below, schedule a call, and see if we can help you out.